But they're my favourite people because they're young and hip and friendly just like me in my mind. And we've got Ambrose Cooke, who's one of the co-founders of Fanbytes. And Ambrose is the operations behind the brand. His partner Timothy Armoo is a 24-year-old CEO of Fanbytes, and 17 built and sold a media company. So give it up to my boys, come on.
So my name's Ambrose. I am a co-founder and COO of Fanbytes. And I think I've put here, if you look at kind of the difference between me and Tim, I call myself like an integrator. So the integrator, the guy is like more the manager, putting the systems in place. So my superpower here would be, implementing scalable systems. Tim, on the other hand, is more of a rah-rah guy, right? So I call him like a visionary activator, a strong leader in terms of creating a movement and actually creating a story of Fanbytes. So if you think about a company, every company needs strong sales and marketing. That's where Tim's really, really strong. Every company needs good operations and systems and all the finances, that sort of stuff. And that's where I come into as well. Do you want to introduce yourself very briefly?
Yeah, so as you can see, CEO of Fanbytes. I think just kind of the dynamic between us is something which I think is very good for most people to be aware of, especially when you're thinking about starting a company. Because I see one of the big mistakes a lot of people make is like, let me start a company with someone who's like very similar to me. And Ambrose and I are like superbly different, even through our descriptions. They're superbly different. I think it works well when we have kind of like both people. I'd go on stage and I'd like say a bunch of stuff, and then like a lot of brands would come, and then I'll turn to him and just like, cool, so how do you do that thing that I just said like 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good way of how we've actually grown.
Yeah,
so that's me.
Exactly, and we'll get more into the differences a bit later. But Fanbytes, where we are right now, let's go back one. Can we go back? Yeah. So, Fanbytes right now, I kind of want to tell you where we are now so you have a good picture of our journey. We're a company of around 30 people based in Old Street. We have an office in Old Street, which we've been operating for a while. And we basically help brands engage with a young audience through influencers. And we've raised a good amount of money in the past. We're now able to do 7 figures in annual revenue, which has been a journey getting to there. But the thing is, you probably look at that and think, how did these two guys get to where they are right now, right? Because looking at that, you think, that's crazy. And what I want to kind of show you is something quite cool, because 5 years ago, I was literally sat in your seats. I was sitting there, and I was always the guy who went to all these events, so leadership conferences. I watched, I think it was a social network, and I thought, I want to start a business like Mark Zuckerberg, right? And then I found myself in this one conference, which was this one here. And as mentioned, I was sat there. There's me, and there's Tim. And Sir Kenneth Elisa said, take a good look to your left and a good look to your right, because you could be sitting next to a future business partner right now. And I looked over to this guy over here, and I thought, there's no way in hell I'm working with that guy. But, it turned out that it turned out that this is literally, by the way, I'd met this guy for about 5 minutes outside, and I was sat next to him here, and I thought, looks a bit weird, but then we had so much in common in terms of interests. We're both from Ghana. We both like the same sort of culture. So Tim actually sent me I think he posted a post on, on Facebook. Here. Tim in his own style. What were you looking for at this point? Because Tim was basically, the cool thing about Tim was he was very entrepreneurial. He'd already started his first business at 17 and, at 14 actually, and then made another one at 17. So I saw a lot from him, and he knew that in order to get to the next step, he wanted to do something bigger where he needed another partner to come on board with him. So what were you looking for at this point?
So I think 2 things. So I think the first thing is what I was saying initially was someone who could very much complement my skills. So when I built that company at 17, that was just a media company. So it was just an online media company, and I eventually sold the company. So after 11 months or so. One of the things though that I realized was that like I could have actually been, so in the most selfish way, I could have actually like sold the company for more if I had someone who I realized could take my like big ideas and basically like be able to execute them to the fullest extension. And so when I wrote this, we're working on a completely different idea. The idea we had was an idea called Bandsy, and it was actually all around like bringing artists and fans together. Bandsy, so funny story, Bandsy was essentially a ripoff of an idea we'd seen in America. And as securities it says, the co-founder of that idea that we ripped off is now an investor in Fanbytes, like 5 years on. But basically, I saw this and I said, let's do something along that in the UK. And so I dropped this in, I think this was in like working startups. Yeah, it was in like the London startups like Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And I just like dropped this in there, and and then next I replied.
Yeah, so then I literally sent Tim a message. Yo, Tim, I'm very interested in startups within the tech industry. Hit me up. So I thought that would be a good way to, not be too abrasive. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so then we met. So I actually always remember the date we met. So this is September. We met on the 17th of September, had it in a little coffee shop. And Tim came to me with a laptop and a landing page, pretty much. He basically hacked together very quickly his initial idea of what this Bandsy website would be. And it would basically be this platform where we could help artists and musicians to engage their fans in more interesting ways through unique experiences and rewards. So one thing we did is we thought, this should be easy. Why don't we just call up every artist we can and get them to like do crazy experiences with their fans? So I think at one point, we tried to cold call Adele and get through to like the management and say, hey Adele, how would you like to go jet skiing with your fans? All right? And obviously she didn't even pick up the phone, so.
And like, the good thing about, so a point actually about that is like, so when we started out, the whole idea was like, artists and bands need a way to kind of engage with their fan bases. And then like fans would also like to be much closer with their artists. And the problem with that idea, and the reason why we're not here talking about how successful Bandsy is, we're talking about something completely different, is the problem with the idea was twofold. The first one was like, we were not particularly passionate about it. We just kind of like saw it and we're like, this seemed to work in America, therefore let's see if this works here. And it created this type of, this thing where we just kept like, just kind of like going through the motions. And then the second reason I think that didn't work was because like, fundamentally, to grow like a really meaningful business, you have to do something which like critically solves a problem. And when we're talking to, or when we're trying to talk to like, info@adele.com, right? And like trying to talk to these artists, at that point, they didn't really have a problem with like engaging their fans. And the fans also like were like, I don't really have a way that, I don't really care. Like I have like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'm kind of like I can see what Adele posts, I can like comment back. It's not really a big deal. I think those are like two things that we definitely like picked up from this like first experience. One of the things though that I think worked exceptionally well also was that like there was a time, I think this was probably like 8 months in or something, I was just like exasperated because I was like, this is just ridiculous. Like no one was responding to our emails, nobody was doing anything at all. So I remember like calling up Ambrose and being like, yo, so this thing isn't working, let's just pack it all in and let's just chill, let's go get like some job somewhere or something like that. And then Ambrose was like, just give him like one more night. And I was like, okay, right, cool. So the whole idea was you give it one more night. If it doesn't work and there are no artists or bands or anyone who responds to us, then basically we call it quits. And woke up the next morning and we had like one person emailed us back and it was like, yeah, this sounds interesting, be good to talk. Mm-hmm. So it turned out that what had happened was basically Ambrose had stayed up the whole night, basically like emailing, just like anyone, just like constantly emailing. And it also turns out that the guy who actually replied was basically just like a scoundrel basically. Like he was just one of those like, you know, guys who didn't really have anything, but you know, he had like a few artists, but those artists also like worked at like Starbucks and stuff. Like just not anything particularly meaningful for us. But the mere fact that like we went through that phase and we're like, give it one more go, and then that one go then led to us at least like continuing with that idea. I think it's just like another thing to show as to like how important it is to not only have perseverance, but also have people who have that like perseverance with you as well.
Yeah. So important is those first few months. It was actually like literally I think 2 or 3 months in, and then we were like, oh yeah, should we just pull the plug, right?
Really?
But if you can make it through those first few months where you know it feels like nothing's working, that can make all the difference, because as Tim says, it's not only the perseverance that matters, but it's also the lessons you get from that. And we learned, one, not to trust everyone because this guy didn't really have legit artists. But two, the really key thing we learned was don't just try and do a nice to have, as we call it. Just try and figure out how you solve a fundamental problem. So from there, actually with that kind of really bad idea, we actually managed to, sorry, a random picture of us at the door. We actually managed to raise some money. It was a small round, but we raised a round of investment from this guy. Does anyone know who this is? Anyone? All right. So this is a guy called Nicholas Wheeler, or Nicholas Charles Tyrrett Wheeler, who owns the shirt company Charles Tyrrett. And his wife owns the white company. So really cool guy to be around. And this is like, I remember when Tim called me, so this was about 6 months into our journey and we raised this round. I remember when Tim called me and like, I think he was trying to like joke around like, oh yeah, we didn't get it. But then the moment like we got the funding, he was so like, we were so happy, right? You can imagine. It was only, well, 15 grand or something. Yeah. But we were so happy because it was like the first hurdle, right? So at 19, and I think Tim was 18 back then, getting this under our belt was really, really good. I think I just want to talk through our progression until there, and then we'll give you some more like tips and then go into Q&A. So yeah, do you want to talk about stuff here?
Yeah, so we started off that fancy idea, realized that didn't actually work, because what we saw was that, again, the artist didn't actually have a problem. So then about 2015, what we started to do was realize that there was actually a massive opportunity in the YouTube world, in which there were like so many YouTube stars who were thinking about how they monetize their audience, but also brands were quite keen on doing the same as well. And so we started off with that, and we said, well, actually, we're going to build the platform which enables brands to be able to do that. And that was quite cool. So we ended up working with like these, with some of the world's biggest brands like GoPro, Adidas, Disney. There you can see a picture with Ronaldinho, who actually came to us to like promote one of those Segway things when they were older age in like 2015, 2016. He basically like created his own. So we were able to work with like some very, very cool brands off the back of that. But then that was kind of like, okay, that's an interesting business. And there was some progress in that.
Actually, I didn't mean to. Yeah, go back. Yeah. Okay. By the way, probably worth mentioning who this other guy is. Mitchell, our third co-founder, was a technical co-founder who we brought on after a little bit because we realized we really wanted, as Tim mentioned, not just build like some cool agency, but want to build a technology platform, because those are the things which scale. And those are the things where you can do really cool things and kind of like get that 10x multiple that we were looking for.
And then afterwards, we then thought, do you know what, like, we didn't want to build like a commodity business, and then here's where the like really, really juicy bits begin. So in 2017, we then said, well, actually, we think there's a much bigger opportunity instead of being like this platform business. We think there's a much bigger opportunity in helping brands to really reach that younger audience on like any platform. And at the moment, so at the time we started that, it was on Snapchat. So we quickly then decided and said, we want to be the guys who help brands to reach like that younger audience. And we built a whole identity around that. And as you can see here, I don't know why you put these random pictures in here, but like that journey has taken us to speak in New York, in Berlin. He's gotten us a bunch of press features. What was that picture taken?
On the tube, I remember that time. on the way home.
Anyway, it's got us a bunch of like really cool features like Forbes, Evening Standard, etc. And it's also been able, we've raised a bunch of money since then. So if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen that we've recently raised some money from the Kamani family. They're the guys who are behind like Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing, Nasty Girl, some other brand which I completely forgot. But we basically like built up the business to be like the de facto place for like brands, everyone from McDonald's to Huawei to the BBC, and actually funniest brand was the government, which was like so random because I remember when we first like started out, we were like, you know, we're gonna be anti-establishment, like, you know, F everyone, we're gonna shake up the industry, and then the government are like, yo, here's some money. Like, yeah, man, establishment, we got you, bro. So. But it's been a very interesting, journey so far in terms of like growing from just like two people tinkering around with just like a bunch of things, trying to make stuff happen, especially also like doing it whilst in university as well. Ambrose was at Imperial, I was at Warwick, like literally like coming back and forth, like especially even in my third year in uni. I just left uni like last year, like my third year in uni, I was there for I think something silly, like I was actually there for like 29 days or like 21 days or something just like silly, because I was just like back and forth because we had an office here. Anything that you want to drop in before we go to the next one?
No.
Oh, and then we won some awards. So we won like the Young Black Business Awards, won 2 actually, which is cool. But I think for us, like one of the big things also just is like, you know, we work in the advertising industry, and the typical people who work in the advertising industry are not people who look like Ambrose and us, and Ambrose and I. And it's actually quite interesting that our third co-founder, although he's mixed race, is actually like Nigerian. And it's like super interesting to kind of think about how we position ourselves, not only in like the cool stuff that we do for brands, but also in terms of like how we as people are able to like define what it means to be like a black leader or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why I think like every time we talk to Veronica, like we're always really keen to come back, basically, because we realize that like with this type of environment here, it is like the hotbed of like creating the next generation of like leaders. And for us, this is something that we take like very serious, because we are literally at the intersection of like tech and advertising, 2 industries where like it's not, you know, black people. It's like it's very much like Stanford or Harvard, curly-haired Jewish guys. So for us, we see it as quite important in terms of like where we actually are in our position in the industry. And growing the team is great. And we also just moved into our new office. Well, I say just, it's been like 7 months.
Yeah, December.
So we have like, in our street, we have like 2 floors. So we have like the top floor where everybody kind of works, and we have the bottom, which is also like a studio as well. Anything that you want to kind of share with that? Yeah,
so like it's quite cool that initially Tim and I were kind of working from coffee shops, but then I think for the first few years, one thing we really took advantage of was the fact that we were at university, and we could kind of like be very mobile where we work, and even get free office space. So one really important period of time with us was when we actually got into an accelerator called Founders Factory, and they invested in like some really cool companies. And they're headed up by a guy called Brent Hoberman, who was the CEO of lastminute.com and some other cool stuff like that. You know, they made like $1 billion exit or something like that. So it was crazy good to be around mentors like that for, I think it was 7 months. And we also got a really, really cool office space for free in High Kensington. But eventually, we kind of grew out of it. We needed a space for our own. And as of 7 months ago, we've actually had our, like, rather than having a co-working space, a place we can really call our own. We can host events here. We can invite some of the influencers here. We can kind of like make the office our own and kind of build our own culture. So that's our kind of thing, what we really want to aim for in the long run.
And I think just kind of, if we're going,
Oh yeah.
Why do you pick all these? This is me on Bloomberg. Right.
Yeah, actually, could you press play if it's possible?
Play. I haven't ever seen this since, so it's good. Because I haven't ever seen that before.
No, it's just a 10-second thing, 15-second snippet.
Right, go.
Yeah, go back if you can. If you can press play. If it doesn't work, then no worries. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, don't worry.
I haven't actually, it's quite funny. Like,
Gifts. Has Snap been a very useful tool of late?
Yeah, 100%. I think from a brand engagement perspective, I haven't seen anything else on the market which can reach that.
leaning into your superpower. And the reason I say this is because I think a lot of like the company's success, even like the investors we have, the companies we work with, all that stuff, has been because we like lend very much into the fact that like we understand the segment of the world which a lot of brands are trying to tap into, and we're going to like really like focus on that segment. We've had massive opportunities from people who've try to ask us like take the business this way or that way or that way. But because we try to like lean into our superpower of this idea of like we understand the younger audience or something like that, we have then really been able to like scale the business pretty quickly. Because we've grown to like, you know, like when 2017 we started off this focus on Gen Z, we grew from like 3 people to 30 people literally in like 2 years. Like just a very quick thing. And I think kind of tip to you guys in terms of like thinking not only from a career perspective but actually also from like a business perspective is this idea of like literally thinking about like what is my superpower. And for a very long time, like you might not think you have like an inherent superpower like, oh, I'm good at programming, I'm good at this. But I think if you really think hard and long, you start to actually see that there are certain things which come very easy to you which don't come easy to other people. And you can really build like defensible kind of career advantages just through that. And literally, if tonight you get out a sheet of paper, literally type like, what am I good at, right? And you just write a lot of things. You find that so many things that you actually took for granted, like a lot of people also aren't. And I think like building a career or building like a business or anything around that is like a very powerful thing to do.
Yeah. So one idea which I really like, so there's a book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, and the very first law says it's better to be first than it is to be better. And I think that's really powerful. And it talks about, you know, the whole thing about should I focus on building a product or should I do the sales and marketing first? Well, if you build the absolute best product or something, but no one hears about it, and specifically no one hears about it before everyone else has heard about it, then you're already kind of like losing the battle. If you think of something like Snapchat, actually, do you think Snapchat would still be around if they didn't launch stories before Instagram stories? Probably not, right? The only reason why they still have a presence is because they established that core user base initially. But I don't know. I think the Instagram stories product is better, personally. So the idea that you should kind of think of it, so think of a niche where you can have a unique value proposition, which is solving something new or something in a far better way is much better than, say, trying to kind of like just jump on the bandwagon of like, I don't know, a lot of people are doing like these Shopify stores, right? And it's so saturated so that you're fighting an uphill battle. Where we really saw ourselves take off was when we kind of made that initial pivot to Snapchat, which was about 2 or 3 years ago. And we were really the only people doing it. We were the only people who were paying attention to what was a very fast-growing platform. So that's one tip.
Good.
And the funny thing is, we're like super big on reading. So these 3 books, read them. So yeah, first one, Racing Towards Excellence. I have no clue. I just said check Amazon.
I can't remember.
But Racing Towards Excellence, great book on like building your career. It's so good they can't ignore you. Again, it's a great book on that. And then Traction. Traction is more on like business stuff. But if you're ever interested in like how you actually operation and grow a business, that's a third good book.
Yes.
So yeah.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Don't go. We're going to have some questions for you.
Just sort of the time, so I thought.
So, no, you're doing okay. We've still got some time. So, do you play FIFA?
I play FIFA.
Yeah, who's better? You? Yeah?
That's a fact.
Seriously?
We haven't played in a while. Let's
So
just
what's
say
your
that.
superpower in terms of games?
In games?
Yeah.
I'm really good at racing games, actually.
Racing games. Can you beat me at racing games?
No.
No. Okay, so there's traction and a bit of competition there. I like all that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting when you talked about the government and just going for the money. So is it all about the money?
So
You're amongst friends, right?
No. I kind of said that in jest. I think when starting a business, you should like 100% have something much more like deeper than money. But at the beginning, I think it's completely fine to do stuff like solely for the money. When I'm going to be like very upfront. When I built and sold my second company, it was because I didn't like being poor, and then I didn't stop being poor, and I was like, okay, this is a much better life. Because like, what can happen is that like, you read a lot of like press and all that stuff, and they talk about, you know, I had this like, I had this itch, and I couldn't do anything but start the company. But like, that's fair, but a lot of it is also bullshit. I have sat in with a lot of like really successful people, and I've seen the press interviews talk about, you know, I did this because I really wanted to solve the problem, and they're like, yeah, no, really, I saw it was a big opportunity, and I saw that I could do something good. That's completely fine, because in doing that, if you're solving a real problem, you're also like helping other people. It's not like you're like stealing money from people to like build a business. You're like solving a problem for someone, and that person is like paying you. So I do think having a healthy dose. I think in terms of like building a company to like survive, I don't think money is going to be the thing that sustains you. Like Ambrose and I right now, like with all our employees, we're not driven primarily by making a boatload of money. It's more like we just want to like win, right? Yeah. So I think that type of mentality is great. At the beginning, if you are in a state where you need that burning thing and you are trying to like, and you want to do it for the money, I think that's fair at the beginning, but then as it goes on, I think that changes.
Okay, great, good. Do you have any entrepreneurs in the room, or anyone who's got a little side hustle that they're, yeah? Okay, great. So can you just explain to them the importance of bootstrapping and doing things like going to Costa as your office?
Yeah, for sure. In the first few months and the year of starting our company, we were very modest about everything. Everything that we earned, we wanted to reinvest into the business. And before we raised money, Tim and I would like kind of throw our own cash in and like, you know, an equal part and say, hey, we need to pay for this dev in this outsourced dev in India or something. Can you throw in 100 quid? Yeah, sure, I'll throw in 100 quid. So putting it in because we really understood that we're investing in the long term rather than, you know, go to another night out or something, but still go to nights out. Anything you would add to bootstrapping?
Yeah, and I think one of the important things about like bootstrapping is actually more important of like the mindset it gives you to always think about how you can be like innovative in your approach. Like we've done some massively innovative things, like which we otherwise would have been like, let's just spend money at it. We've got certain customers just through like a lot of like really like thinking in a kind of constrained way. So I think that's where it gets like hugely valuable as well. So I think it's more of like a mindset thing that it gives you. And then obviously afterwards you can go ahead and raise money with yourself, like that's cool, but you still be approaching it with like, this is how I would have approached it if I didn't have any money.
Brilliant, okay. Time for 2 questions, and I'd like them from entrepreneurs, please. Great, okay. Good, can you count?
Yeah, I can.
You sure? There we go, you drop it. Oh, well done.
Hey guys, my name is Melambo, and first and foremost, I'm super proud of what you guys are doing as Black co-founders within digital marketing in the tech space. So my question is, every year you're getting older, so how are you continually reinventing yourselves and keeping a pipeline of fresh ideas to engage young people?
We aggressively hire young people. That's it. Like, as every company grows, not even from an age perspective, but as every company grows from a company size perspective, the C-suite of people are always removed from like the actual day-to-day. And so the remit of, this is something actually one of my mentors told me, he said, the remit of like a CEO or COO is when you are beyond like 15 people is to think about how you actually replace yourself. And so like from the time we kind of really reached like 10 people, we like obsessively started to think about, okay, assume both of us went to Cancun or something, right? Like for like a whole year. Like what type of people would need to be there in order for the business to run. So as a consequence, we realized that we need to make sure that we hire like younger people who like get the culture and get that stuff there, but then also have the like managers of people who can oversee them. So I think in our case, it's about like aggressively kind of like really looking for people who are like in touch with culture, etc. But then on a more macro level, I think that like beyond 15 people, really beyond 10 people, you should obsessively be thinking about, if I went on holiday, who are the people who need to be in there, and that will really guide the type of hire.
Right, okay. Got a question there? Right at the back. Well, here we go now, come on, I've got to take a run for this one, here we go. Ready? Oh! So I got it to you. There we go. Good.
Hi, my name's Christiane. Thank you for your speech. You guys seem to get along really, really well, and the chemistry between you two seems to be quite natural. My first question is, do you guys ever disagree on anything? And also, how do you solve it?
Yes, we disagree on a lot of things, which is exactly what you want. So if Tim was looking for someone who was going to, like, when he's looking for a co-founder, if he found someone who agreed to everything he said, I wouldn't be a good co-founder. I'd be pretty useless, because I'm not like a complementary person to him, right? By the way, the visionary integrator stuff, there's an amazing book called Rocket Fuel, which you can read, which identifies it so well. But that's another point. How we solve that, I guess, is, so there's a couple of ways. First, realizing that, having an actual awareness that we're all doing this for the same outcome, right? So even though we have different opinions or different ways of seeing it, we have the same goal. So from that viewpoint, it's less fueled and by emotion and more by objective truths. But the second thing is having really, really strong and like kind of semi-formal review systems. So there's something which I also talk about called IDS, right? It's called Identify, Discuss, Solve. So the point is there's lots and lots of issues which come up every single day in a company, not just that we point out, but sometimes that employees point out. So these are all issues, but obviously you can't do everything, right? So the idea is to distill down all these issues into, let's say, the top 3 root issues, the like root causes that you need to actually tackle, then have scheduled times, say half an hour, you have open and honest discussions about them. What's the best way of doing it? Here's solution A, here's solution B. Can we find a solution C, which is a marriage of the two and which is the best? And finally, coming up with a solution, which we call big rocks, which go into the next week as big things which certain people will actually execute on to solve the underlying issue. So that's kind of like how we go about it.
Right. Do you ever arm wrestle?
Yeah, I'm better.
Yeah, you're better,
Yeah.
right? Okay, rock, paper, scissors? Does that work?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay. Great, okay, good. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much. Are you stopping around for a drink? Yeah, great.
For like 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
Afterwards, okay, no, that's great. So if you've got any other questions, you can catch them there. But, I mean, these guys started here in 2013. Obviously, they were doing their stuff before. But, as I said, look behind you, look to the right and to the left of you, because your next business partner could be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys. Great.